Warren Buffett earned almost 5 billion US dollars in dividends in 2023 from his investments, stock investments in from Berkshire Hathaway. While PIF in Saudi Arabia will be earning close to 5 billion dollars every quarter starting this year, which is close to 20 billion in the whole year as dividends. So let's try to understand in this video what dividends are and how do we start earning them from the Saudi Stock Exchange Tadawul. When an investor tries to buy a company from the Tadawul Stock Exchange, or which I will refer to as stock, there are two types of profit that the investor can make. One is when the investor sells the stock at a price higher than the buying price. That is commonly known as the capital gains. In Saudi Arabia, there are no capital gains tax for residents. The second is when a company decides voluntarily to distribute its yearly profit amongst the investors, and they give some certain conditions. Example is only give it to those investors who purchased the stock before a particular date, right? This is known as dividends. Now, distributing the some part of the profit as dividends is company's decision, and it can change anytime. Meaning, if a company gave dividends in 2022 doesn't mean that they will definitely give in 2023, right? It's their decision and depends on the economic cycle, the profits that they're making. And also, generally what I've seen across stock exchanges is that when a company is growing in its initial stages, or it has to expand, they will try to reinvest their capital profits right into the business, because they need money to expand the business, the geography, the product range, launch new products, etc. So they have to reinvest it. And also, in terms of sectors, most of the public sector companies, financial companies, mining companies, right, like Aramco, Maden, Awal Bank, right? These are the type of businesses, not just in Saudi, in India, in US. Dividends are paid on a per share basis, meaning, so if you have 100 shares of, let's say, Jarir Bookstore or Jarir Market, and Jarir Marketing had issued a dividend of 0.15 riyals on per share basis. This means that if you had 100 shares, you will be getting 15 riyals in total credited to your capital accounts. When the dividend is paid at the end of the financial year, it's known as the final dividend. And when a dividend is paid in between, right, during this financial year, that's known as an interim dividend. A typical metric that we use to compare the dividends amongst the companies is known as the dividend yield, right? Which is the dividend that the investor is receiving per share to the cost of that share. And this means that when I'm calculating the total return, it's the capital gain return, the price appreciation return, plus the dividend return that needs to be considered in, right? Before we continue, just a small note for all my viewers and subscribers. I came across an interesting stat recently from YouTube Studio, which tells me that 81.2 percentage of the viewers have not subscribed to my channel. Initially thought this could be, just because they didn't like the content, right? But what was confusing is that when I found that the non-subscribers are liking my channels more than the subscribers, close to a 60-40 ratio split, right? So an honest request, it just needs a click of a button, get instant notification of all the material, all the content that I publish, not just on video basis, but also, on the community channel. Let's not try to find out like what are the companies paying dividends in the Tadawul Stock Exchange, right? I take the screener, I move this to Saudi Arabia. Now let me add the dividend, which is the dividend yield, and I'll also add the dividend per share growth. Okay, and I'll explain what this means, right? So in total, we have 333 companies that is listed on the Tadawul Stock Exchange. This will include ETFs, this will include REITs, this will include individual stocks, real estate investment trust, individual common stocks, etc. Everything, right? Let me just put a bare minimum filter of not at least, but greater than zero as your dividend. in the last year, which leads to 153. There are 153 listed companies. Now, let me the inflation is close to 2% in Saudi Arabia currently. So at least I want to make sure that I'm be able to beat the inflation by some safety of margin, right? So I'll put the dividend to be 5%, which is quite good, I would say, right? So how many countries? The companies, there are 30 companies listed on stock exchange out of the 333 which have given more than 5% yield. As I mentioned, yield means the return, right? So there are 30 companies, and if I just go through it, a good chunk of this is also REITs, right? Alali REITs, Al Kabir REITs, Alrajhi REITs, Alinma REITs, Bonian REIT, Alrajhi REIT, right? So there's a bunch of REITs. I'll get rid of those as well because I've already covered this separately. REITs should be considered differently. Okay, I'll just sort it. So these are the top 17 listed companies which have given more than 5% yield over the last year. And as I mentioned earlier, the majority are coming from the heavy industries, process industries, finance, right? A good chunk is finance or heavy industries, process industries, right? On top of this, if I also wanted to check whether the dividend per share has been growing year over year. So 22 versus 23, has the company given more dividend per share? Right? At least, more than a positive one that leads to 11 companies which have been which has increased their dividends over the last 2 years. If you go to the investing.com, and here also you can do something similar. I just like to use both, right? So again, I'll filter for Saudi, and here I have a few more filters that I can put in. One is on the dividend yield. Let's keep it the same, greater than 5. And then there's also a dividend yield 5-year average to be greater than 5, right? Which is giving me much more better sense of the consistency of the company. If the company has been giving more than 5 over the last 5 years average. How many are there? There are 20 such stocks as well. So using these two, you get a sense of what are the companies which have been consistently giving this, right? What I did is I also pulled this data into an Excel. So this is the same data 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2020. This is the per share, what has been the dividend, not the dividend yield. This is the dividend. Similarly, in terms, if I were to sort them by the total absolute amount of dividend per share, okay, that is started by the Saudia, of course, then the Jareem Marketing, then Sabic, then Alothaim, United Electronics. Over the last 6 years, on absolute per share basis, 35 riyals, 18 riyals, 35 riyals, 20 riyals, etc. Right? So Saudi Aramco has given a yield of a dividend of 10 riyals in 2023, then 8.6 in 2024, this year already. So when you try to calculate your total return, you have to incorporate this as well. Now going back to the main list of those 11 companies which have given more than 5% and also has increased year over year their dividend per share, right? So Arabian Center tops the list with almost 13% yield, which is insane, right? You just then buy this stock and you're set, right? That's insane. This has been consistently giving dividends over the last 6 years, so that is good, right? And also in a way trending positively. 2024 data is still not fully complete, so we will definitely have more, right? So this is good. This is a good indication. The next company then is Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabian Oil, Kingdom Holding, Jareer Marketing, Saudi Networkers, Mobi Industry, Saudi Investment Bank, Arab National Bank, Saudia, Gulf Insurance, right? So I hope I was able to show you how to use multiple data sources, right, to validate and to check. So I shortlisted the companies which are giving dividends. Then from the Tadawul website, I found out the historical over the last, because that data is not there in some of these websites. So I had to go to the Tadawul to extract this data in Excel, and then I was checking what are the companies which have been consistently giving it, right? So the final question that I will put forward is this a metric to shortlist a company to invest in? Absolutely no. This is not a metric. Just because a company is giving dividends or not giving dividends does not mean that it's a good or a bad company. For shortlisting, you need to also look into a lot of other factors around the quality, around the stability of the company itself, right? But however, at certain stage of your career, you'll also start looking for passive incomes, and that's where short selecting companies which give dividends, right, becomes a criteria for you as well, right? So if you're someone who's trying to select a good company who which can also give you a passive income, then you should consider this. But what are the other metrics that you should use to shortlist a company? That's what the following sessions will be all about. So stay tuned. Looking forward. Thank you.